Recently, I bought one of my dream cars and I've been working on it to try to get it running, well, just running. Not even just in the way that I want it to go, but simply running. And as I was doing that, I was looking at the cost that it might cost me to fix it, and it got me starting to wonder how much that I've spent over the past 7 years as I've been working on cars. So I went through my YouTube channel to look at all the cars that I've owned, and I've totaled up all the amount of money that I've spent over the past 7 years to see how high that number is. So we're going to be going through each car individually and seeing how much that I've spent on all my cars. Recently, we've done a list on how I ranked all the cars that I bought, but today, we're actually looking at how much it costs, and to begin, we're just going to start chugging our way through the list and see how much I've spent on each car. The reason that we're doing this now is because I recently bought my dream car, and I know a lot of you guys have had a similar thought to what I have, which is, if I never spent any money on the current car that I have, how long would it take for me to save up in order to buy my actual dream car? Because let's be real, we don't buy our dream cars because they're expensive. But in the meantime, we're also spending money on the project cars that we have, so how much have I spent that possibly could have taken away from me owning my dream car sooner? So right here, I have a list of all my cars and how much I've spent on each one with the total number, and we're going to be looking at that. Before we get started, go ahead and check out the link down below at philsupra.com to get yourself a new Miata shirt, a Supra shirt, any other shirt that really shows how much of a car enthusiast you are. Let's dive in. So to start off, let's just hit the nail on the head with the most expensive car that I've ever owned, which is my very first Supra. I spent about $2,000 on that car to buy it, and then I put in a whole bunch of work with the exhaust, with the coilovers, wheels, body kit, interior work, and even buying a 1JZ and swapping that engine into the car, which that alone cost me over $6,000. So in total, I've spent right around $12,000 on that car. Now, as a little clarification, I'm not going to have perfect exact numbers on all of my cars. I've recently, at the end of the series, when working on cars with my Miata, van, and Supra, I've been sharing the total amount that I spent on those cars, but I didn't keep as good of track early on when I was working on cars. So some of those earlier cars are going to have estimations, but if you want to see more specific breakdowns on how I spent the money on my cars more recently, those videos are linked up on the channel so you can see exactly how much I'm spending. I want to have that transparency with you guys, which is also part of why I'm doing this video. But for my first Supra, I have spent right around $12,000, about $6,000 in buying the car and doing some aesthetic and fun mods, and then obviously another $6,000 to get the engine in and running. Now the second car on the list is my sister's Toyota Camry, and that one I spent right around $500 on. I didn't spend too much money on it. I really only spent money for plasti dip, like $30 flares, some lights, seat heaters, and a rear view camera. I really didn't total up to that much, but I also never owned the car, so that's why the cost stayed down on that one. Moving on to another project car that I had, it was the V6 Mustang, the first car that I gave to my brother before I recently gave him a V8 version of it, kind of upgraded it. Now that car cost me right under $2,000 to buy, and I spent a decent amount of money trying to get some mods into it to make it a nice OEM plus look. I bought headlights, taillights, lowering springs, wheels, steel braided brake lines, converted the interior to black, and got him some racing seats. All in all, that total came out to about $3,750. Now that's an estimation based on what I can remember spending, but that is about what it spent to get that car to him. The nice part about that is when we get to the V8 version of the car that I bought for him, I didn't have to spend a lot of that money again because I already had those parts, but we will get to that later on. Now the next car is one you guys may have forgotten because I often forget it because it doesn't run. It is my first 3000 GT VR4, and it's the white one that I had that I bought running, but the engine was catastrophically failed. Now I spent about $4,000 in total on that car, maybe a little bit more, but we're gonna say $4,000. It cost me $3,500 to get the car, and then I spent about $500 getting refreshment parts that a lot of them I didn't end up using except for the timing belt kit, which I actually recently ended up using on our green 3000 GT. But I'm counting that into the cost of the white one because that's what I initially spent the money for. Now that car ended up having a catastrophic engine fail. It had a hole or a chunk of a piston actually missing, which had been bouncing around the inside of the engine, so the entire block and head was completely shredded up. It just wasn't worth saving monetarily. There's a lot of other issues, small issues as well, just had been in a front end collision. Not a huge one, but one nonetheless. There was enough knick-knack issues that I really didn't want to pursue fixing this car further, so that one kind of has been sitting to the side, but nonetheless it has become a parts car that I may actually steal some parts off for the green 3000 GT, so stay tuned, it's gonna get fun. So $4,000 for that one, and the next car on my list was my first Miata, which I spent a total of around $4,000 on. It cost me $2,300 to get the car, and after I had the car, I bought lowering springs, street struts, steel braided brake lines, new calipers, new rotors, speakers for the headrest, a new steering wheel, and a whole new engine. That car wasn't initially intended to be a project. I was just gonna do it for fun off to the side so I could have something to work on without having to film it, but it very quickly devolved into being a project car, and all in all, I spent around $3,500 on that car. Now the nice part was I was able to make up that money and a little bit more on top of it during the sale of it, but we're not going to talk about that now. Right now, just looking at the cost that I spent, which was around $3,500. The next car on my list is the V8 Mustang that I gave to my brother. Now to start off, that's a really cool video, so if you haven't seen that one already, please go watch it. That's probably my favorite recent video that I've made in a while, so that one's worth a watch, 100%. But I spent spent $3,500 buying that car, and I only put about $400 into it. Now that cost was simply just the paint. That was the only thing that I had to buy for the car, because if you guys remember in that video, if you haven't seen the video, you won't remember. But I took the parts from my brother's V6 Mustang and I put them into his V8, so that way I didn't actually have to spend any money in order to upgrade his car, because I could just take what was already there, which was really handy for myself cost-wise. And it also meant that he got to keep the parts that he liked of his V6 Mustang on his V8, and so it just worked out really well to give myself a project that I could work on without having to spend a whole lot of money. So $3,900 all in all on that car. So if you're doing some quick math at home, that's right around $7,700 for a V8 Mustang, which, you know, isn't actually too bad, because again, you got to consider the cost that I got back for selling his other car, so not too bad. The next car on the list is the smashed Miata, and this is the first car that we have that I have a specific number amount. It is $3,024.10. I did a more thorough breakdown of this car on my channel already, so if you guys want to see that video, you can go ahead and check it out. But essentially, I paid $2,000 for a running car that was smashed, $200 for a shell. I put those together, and then it spent another $800-ish in order to get parts to make it completely whole. And that was roughly just the cost of wheels, some interior pieces, just to get the car back to an OEM plus state. Really didn't cost that much. I made up for that in the sale of the car, but all in all, our total number for that one was just over $3,000, which isn't too bad for a Miata anyway. The next car on the list is the car, honestly, that I drive the most right now, and it's my minivan. Now, this car I bought simply just to have fun. This is one of the cars that I didn't buy with the idea to throw some ridiculous body kit on it and just be like, hey, look how crazy we're gonna stance out this car. But I bought it because I was like, this would just be hilarious. A lifted minivan's awesome. And it is. Now, I did a breakdown on the cost for that car as well, and the total came out to $3,423.36, which isn't too much as well. The car initially cost $40,000 from factory, and I paid about $1,900 to get the car. Now, of course, it was in a wreck because I bought it from an auction site, but just to get it fixed, throw the lift kit on it, some tires, and that's really all I did. Total cost came out to right under $3,500, which again, $3,500 for a top of the line all-wheel drive minivan, pretty good deal. The second to last car on the list is the red Supra, which is probably currently the most popular car on my channel. Also the car with the most issues that I have. That car cost me $5,650. Again, for the way it looks, it really isn't that much money, but nonetheless, that is a good chunk of money, where I spent $1,700 on the car, and the majority of the money, of course, goes to wheels and tires. I just, that's the most frustrating part of every car, because it makes the biggest difference. It also costs the most, and it's something where if you cheap out on it, as in like $500 less, you're really not getting good looking wheels, but you have to spend more, and it's just, man, I hate the cost of wheels. That's the summary. But I spent money on the exhaust, headers all the way through the catback system, suspension, obviously wheels, the body kit, the paint, interior work. I kept it cheap, all things considered, but nonetheless, this car came out to just under $6,000 for the total cost. And then the final car that we have on the list is my most recent car, which is a 3000 GT. And to date, I've spent $2,025 on the car, which isn't much. It's not. It is actually the cheapest car on the list right now, but it's because we're just getting started. Of course, I'm about to throw a whole lot more work into this car, but that's where we're at. The car doesn't run. I spent $2,000 on the car, and I spent $2,000 on a sensor that I'm hoping will fix the car, because I found another issue with it that might lead to a fix, possibly. We'll see. I don't know. I'll talk about it in another video. So in total though, how much does this cost? In grand total, our number is, drumroll please, $45,772. Oh my goodness. Wow, this number I was not expecting. Honestly, I was so freaking delusional. I thought the number was like 25,000. $45,772. Here's the cool part. Take out my first Supra. Actually, let's just pause. The most expensive car that I have bought is my brother's Mustangs for $3,500. Aside from that car, I have never spent more than $3,000 on a car. I have never spent $3,000 on a car. All of this extra money has been through work, and the point that I've kind of been hinting at and beating around the bush a little bit is I have made a lot of money back on selling a lot of these cars. Let's just take my first V6 Mustang that I got from my brother. I paid under $2,000 for it. I got $2,000 for it when I sold it. The smashed Miata, I paid $3,000 for the car. I sold it for $4,000. My other Miata, I paid about $3,500 for the car. I sold it for $3,750. My 300ZX, I took a huge loss on it. I got nothing back pretty much. I got a PC I sold to my brother for $750. So that one's a loss. But even my first Supra that I spent $12,000 on, I got about 7 or 8 grand back from it, which is pretty good all things considered, because you're definitely not going to get your full money back for a car, and especially in a car that was my first car and had a whole lot of mistakes, parts that didn't make the whole car's value increase. To be able to part it out and get a lot of money back for it was that felt good. Not the whole amount, but something nonetheless. My Y3000, that's a loss, but I still get to use it for parts, so that's going to save money on my other 3000. My van I use every single day, so I'm maximizing the cost of that. The V8 Mustang got to go to my brother, and I didn't have to spend money again on the parts I'd already bought for his Mustang. So the whole moral of the story is I've been able to stretch every dollar so much further, with the exception of the 300. I hate that car, but I've been able to stretch every dollar as much as I possibly could, which has been very, very fun as a challenge, which has also been able to help me afford all of these projects without having to be in the hole for any of these. I've never been in debt for anything ever, actually. Always been in the positive, which has always been good. So with that being said, help. Buy merch, please, if you can. The way I look at it, if you have money you're not gonna miss, I would appreciate you buying merch. If you need the money, hold on to it. Don't feel obligated to, but any support for the merch goes straight into the channel. There's no part where I'm holding on to money and spending it on something that isn't the channel, so you can take confidence in that if you do want to support. If not, simply watching, liking, and commenting on these videos does so much. Honestly, genuinely, I do appreciate all you guys who show up and watch all the videos, the good ones and the bad ones, and just comment. The encouragement has been amazing. Thank you guys so much. As depressing as the summer is, it's not going to stop me from working on cars. I've got plans for the 3000 in the future. I've got plans to try to get another one. I'm sorry, this is honestly a filler video because I had plans to get another car to start working on it, and the guy just bailed on me. Oh my goodness. I tried twice to set up a date with him, and he said yes both times, and then just ghosted me the day of. So anyway, I'm trying to get another short-term project car that's going to be an absolute blast, but I'm struggling to get someone to text me back. I'm sorry. Anyway, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Follow me on Instagram at @philwillsupra if you guys want to see more updates that come out usually a few days before the actual video. Stay tuned to the channel, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Adios.